Imagine having a highly technological advanced company like the Shinra Power Company, for example, and out of all the things you've ever made, no matter if we're talking about different soldiers you enhanced or the different fighters that are pretty strong, like Turks that are pretty strong, out of all your science, you created this one thing that trumps all these mechs and all of it. A being scarier than entire armies. A being far scarier than divine godlike entity type summon entities like Odin who have swords that can apparently cut through anything, whether it be the fabric of creation or time in between the seconds. And Sephiroth is scarier than all this stuff. And like he says, don't look away. Final Fantasy VII in the past and the remake's present is pretty much the same concept, but there's definitely some differences. So for confusion purposes, when it comes to analyzing this character today, I'm going to analyze today's strength, Sephiroth's strength. I'm going to be mainly focusing on the remake stuff, newer stuff, even though I have to pull from some of the past, because even though they're two different sagas, it's kind of like the same concept to where a lot of the characters still went through the similar events as the past saga, so I really have to bring up the past stuff like Crisis Core and the previous Final Fantasy VII OG and stuff to some stuff. But just to help it not be as messy, because there's definitely some differences between the original and this remake saga. I just want to focus on the remake sagas when it comes to Sephiroth, okay? Let's just say feats get perceived a different way when the feats are shown through this lens versus an HD lens when the character has a lot of pixels and stuff, higher graphics. Feats get interpreted a lot differently that way, you know? Sephiroth, the legendary villain in Final Fantasy, is in Remake as well. No duh, of course he is. He's a legendary powerful being in this universe. A legendary soldier that everybody wanted to be like until he went insane and stuff. Yeah, see, here's the thing. The Shinra Electric Power Company, has like its own divisions and stuff. Like it has Turks, it has soldiers. Sephiroth was like the best of the best when it comes to these different soldiers, these enhanced entities. Basically, there's a mad scientist in this universe named Hojo, and there was like this cataclysm that came from the stars known as Genova. Hojo has devoted half of his life to her study. This being Genova's study, like studying Genova's body, enhancing life forms and machines through this application. Sephiroth is one of those beings that is enhanced because of this scientific stuff. This Genova, enhancing different soldiers with Genova cells and such stuff, to the point where he's so enhanced he even doubts, is he even human? That's why throughout this video you're going to see him do a lot of superhuman stuff. This is partly the reason. He's definitely enhanced, not normal. Not to mention this show has anime vibes to it, so even if he wasn't enhanced, beings that are not enhanced with nothing can do superhuman stuff because of anime type writing and logic and stuff. This is how this is. I mean, just look at characters like Tifa, who's definitely not enhanced but can still do superhuman stuff when it comes to punching big mechs. So yeah, you can do a lot when you're just normal humans in this universe. Sephiroth, since he's a veteran soldier, he would have knowledge like this, talking about the enhanced beings in this universe. Zack, one of them. Average soldiers are Mako enhanced humans. Enhanced but still human. But there are beings with higher Mako levels than normal. I'm assuming Sephiroth, I think we all could agree Sephiroth is one of those beings that have higher Mako levels than usual. The ones that have higher Mako levels end up becoming monsters. That's how monsters are made. Abominations spawn from Mako energy. One can look at it like the reason why Sephiroth is so overpowered, which you're going to see a lot throughout this video, is because he's like the perfect monster, the greatest monster. He's one of those characters that uses a blade and is very skilled with a blade, might I add. Uses it a lot in combat. There's like these super orbs you're probably used to in this Final Fantasy VII universe, remake or the original, it doesn't matter. Both have these super orbs known as materia. It's the knowledge from these ancient people known as the Cetra, putting each orbs, like their knowledge is sealed in the orb. That's what these orbs are. It's the knowledge that connects everybody to the planet, and the planet itself is kind of, one could say, alive. It has its own life stream and stuff. It's because of the Cetra and their knowledge in these orbs that allow the beings in this universe to use these orbs to be able to cast magic. Sephiroth is one of those beings that can use magic too, because of these orbs known as materia. They dub it the crystallization of the planet's memories and knowledge, materia. That's why you see on cases like this, you see him blast with lightning or energy projection type stuff. I mean, when we're talking about his blast power, it seems his junks can get kind of crazy on how much area of effect it can cover. Area of effect, like, yeah, all of that, just one blast. Even cutscenes while older, you see the different energy projective type of things. You get it. There's even times where there's implications he doesn't necessarily need materia and he can energy project. Like, it's kind of crazy. Like, he can make barriers or shields to block himself. One can say enhances durability by making a shield. Yeah. There's implications he can fly, something a lot of characters can't do. And it's implied he has telekinesis where he can lift up entire buildings and crap. I'm bringing this back up in a bit. And it seems like he can just, you see these type of techniques, like Cloud, it's sealed to the floor and he can't move. Like, it's one of those situations, is this a materia-based technique, or is this just him using weird abilities because he learned some stuff we don't know about? Like, seriously, this looks like some gravity manipulation type stuff Sephiroth can technically do. It should be noted that when it comes to this sword, Sephiroth is the only person that can handle the weapon properly. Since we already know he likes using the sword, we've seen him use his sword in different versatile ways. Like, it's a common theme for him to imbue his sword with energy and do a long-range slash attack. Like, here, he could be implied to be doing what Cloud can do, because Cloud can enhance his sword slashes with micro energy. There's implications he could do that too, and make long-range blade beam energy slash attacks like this, for example, to blast you from far away. But Sephiroth seems to be unique in the sense that his blade be having different colors. Like here, it looks like a Mako-ish type of color, but here it has a straight up different color, like purplish color. So this implies he can do different types of energy slash type of attacks. In this occasion, it implies he imbues his sword with purplish, bluish energy type of stuff and slashes a Cloud here, for example. You know you're built different to where you can catch sword slashes with your bare hands like it's no big deal. In the Remake saga, there's this thing known as the Whisperers, Arbiters of Fate. They have a lot to do with your destiny. Like, they got to keep things in destiny's course and stop things that goes against the planet's will, apparently. There's like a fixed flow that has to be followed. And these Whisperers are responsible for this. You're probably wondering, why am I bringing this up? This is important because Sephiroth ends up getting command of these Whisperers to amp himself up even more. We see him literally blast out Whispers at his opponent. So yeah, he can literally control them. There's implications because he has control over these Arbiters. He can like teleport away whenever he feels like, apparently, it seems. It seems he has weird abilities like being able to teleport other beings with the Arbiters of Fate somewhere else to another world, like how he did Zack here, for example. Like, you see, because of him having command over the Arbiters, he can do weird stuff. How the heck was Sephiroth able to do this? It's because of stuff like this. The reason why he has a base form, you can see the wing form, and then when he powers up, he can change forms to where it looks like a demonic angelic deity type of being. Like, yeah, Sephiroth can transform into stuff like this, to where he becomes kind of like a divine being, to where he exists in multiple worlds at the same time, fighting different beings. For example, like in this occasion, we see him fighting the one side of the party, like Yuffie, Barret, and Red, while he's also fighting Zack, while also fighting Cloud at the same time. It was this moment where he transcended time and space, basically, or one could say, because like this is where the moment we see him entering the crack between the worlds, and then he entered the other world so he can fight the other party. So he practically was fighting three groups of beings, or in three different spaces, because he's in different worlds at the same time. An example of how he exists in two places at once is this attack with Zack. You see him and Cloud both attack him, and the same being gets affected in both realities, or in both worlds, or in three worlds, because Barret's fighting him too. It's even confirmed when you scan him, and they give you more lore about him. He's a resurrected being who now wields unimaginable might and commands the Arbiters of Fate. He seeks to pierce through the layers of existence. They dub him Sephiroth Reborn. You might know him in the original saga known as Bizarro Sephiroth. Like, it looks similar, but just a new design. I would like to add in this state, he's literally bulletproof. Barret was shooting at him. He was eating those bullets. And it's implied he has a healing factor to the point where he can heal himself. Like, you see it visually happen. It's not a gameplay mechanic. It happens in cinematics and cutscenes. They even said he's rebuilding himself. In this super large state, Sephiroth seems to be able to do wind manipulation. Like, I'm not playing. I'm talking about like make literally multiple tornadoes like out of the blue thanks to whisper manipulation and stuff. Sephiroth in this huge, scary, divine-looking state can still do sword type of attacks. The Bahamut being that he created, and apparently Sephiroth can like legitly heal himself and heal the entities that he creates if they get beat up by the party too much. But let me get back to this in a bit. I'm gonna get off of this for a second and go backwards real quick. His physiology in general is just crazy anyway. I mean, who the heck do you know can withstand being stabbed by a thick behind sword like this and is okay afterwards? So when it comes to lifting heavy stuff, he can easily lift up full-grown humans with one arm physically. With his interesting telekinesis type of ability, we see him lift up a whole bunch of debris, or one could say gravity manipulation. He can lift hundreds of tons. Even without counting gravity stuff, we see him hit physically hard without no sword, just slinging beings that far. And right here, for example, there's implications he can lift hundreds or even hundreds of thousands of tons. I mean, he's lifting up a building, multiple buildings here, and tossing them like with ease, really. Yeah, he could quite literally lift up your whole block with the wave of his hand. With his gravity and energy manipulation abilities, he probably can lift over millions of tons, considering when we saw him lift up these buildings or whatever, this seems to be with laughable ease. There doesn't seem to be no strain. It just seems to be easy in how he just aimed him and tossed them. Speaking of lifting a lot of weight, beings that Cloud and the crews fought, like this serpent, for example, we've seen him show enough blast power to blast this thing with energy projection so hard to where it flies out of this water with this much. Even the party's shocked and does that to it. Just like how he can lift up buildings with a telekinetic ability and stuff like that, he can slash with similar or more force, as like both of them go vice versa when it comes to his blast power and how hard he can cut and stuff. Just like how his blast power can affect him, his swords can do the same. When it comes to bridges and steel bridges, he can cut through them like butter. Certain creatures like with this, we see them a one shot. When it comes to these test tubes, he can easily cut stuff like this open to show like experiments. One-winged angel stage slash, you see him just cut through stuff like that. These big creatures or beasts known as the guardians of the planet, like, yeah, these big things with these giant materia junks in them, yep. That being is known as a weapon. One of the creatures that appear when the planet is in danger, that guardian of the planet, that's huge. We've actually seen Sephiroth, without transforming, damage such entities. This is the occasion where Tifa was stuck in one, yeah. It just pretty much shows like without him having to transform, size means nothing. He can just hit things this large, things that are about the size of houses with his cutting power. I want you guys to remember that he's clashing swords with a being known as Cloud consistently, and it seems like in a lot of occasions he's not even trying his hardest. This same Cloud is the same being that can cut literal trains in half. Like, this is the type of sword, type of cutting power these beings have. Sephiroth is always clashing with this being. Like, it's even confirmed in the lore, these little buildings, like, yeah, this stuff, these trains, like Cloud literally cut through this with a sword slash, and it was consistent. So it's quite obvious Sephiroth can cut through these trains too. I mean, we did see Cloud actually cut through motorcycles. So yeah, this kind of stuff ain't nothing new for these characters with this over-the-top cutting vehicles and stuff. Basically, if you put any of these vehicles in front of him, he can just chop it up with his sword, regardless if you think he's too young to have this kind of power already. You see this monster right here, for example, we see him cut. You got occasions like this. You see this big piece of floating rock they're on, like that big piece of land? His cutting power or sword slashes allow him to be able to cut through such structures right down the middle. Like, look at all that rock he cut through. You can literally see how much he cut through. And this angle right here, all that he cut in half. Even though I'm trying to make this video mainly focused on the Rebirth saga feats, basically, but it's just certain things that's inevitable. Like, back then, Sephiroth is known to be the ultimate bad guy of the series. It's kind of the same concept for this series too. This is important, like when it comes to being the most powerful bad guy or being, and the fact that he controls the arbiters of fate, all that stuff kind of makes sense on why he's like the ultimate big bad. But there's like these divinely strong godlike entities, like these summon entities, these creatures or godlike entities. They don't get too much screen time, but there's implications that whatever they can do when it comes to how hard they can hit, Sephiroth can do better. Because, or else, if they were stronger than Sephiroth, why didn't the party just say, oh, we can't beat Sephiroth on our own, so why don't we just summon somebody like this and they can do it for us? So there's implications that it's not that simple. Despite how strong these summons are, there's implications when it comes to how hard they can hit. There's implications Sephiroth can hit harder. Summon entities. We've actually seen Sephiroth in his base state without even the Arbiters of Fate stuff, just with his enhanced sword attacks, one shot or two shot summon entities with how hard he can hit. A fair assumption would be to assume that some of these summons are probably comparable to each other, but it's one of those things where, yeah, a lot of the summons have different abilities and things they specialize in, but if Sephiroth's supposed to be the ultimate big bad, wouldn't it kind of make sense for him to be stronger than these summon entities too? I mean, there's legit summon entities that are literally stated to be able to level or crush whole mountains. So I would think it would be fair to say, since we've seen Sephiroth actually two-shot or some of these different summon entities, not this one in particular, the one that stated it can break apart mountains, but it would be kind of weird if Sephiroth couldn't tremble or even destroy certain mountains or even multiple mountains compared to how strong these summons are, and he's supposed to be above them. And he did that without even being in a higher form. So yeah, just imagine how hard his higher forms can hit. So this is definitely a bare bones minimum, being disrespectful, downplaying him. He should be able to easily level mountains or a mountain. Bare minimally, he should have sword attacks that should be able to hit like nuclear bombs. Like, as crazy as it may seem, beings that are considered, like, we all could agree that narratively speaking, he's considered below Sephiroth. I think we all could agree with that. Beings that Sephiroth used to test the party, like Gilgamesh. I think we can all use this as a testament to how strong Sephiroth would technically have to be if these are just technically tests. This is not the end final boss type situation, you know? Gilgamesh has some decent cutting power via energy projection or whatever with his blade, to where there was like literally a temporal rift. Like, this is one of those feats that's hard to measure, but you can't have weak cutting power for him to be able to do something like this, to open up a dimensional rift to make it wider just with a simple sword slash. This being Gilgamesh, who Sephiroth himself summoned to test the party in power level and stuff. Like, it just kind of lets you know how strong Sephiroth would have to be, you know? I mean, remember how earlier I brought up how he has control over these whispers, or one could say arbiters of fate? These beings that can do crazy stuff like bring people back to life that are not supposed to die, like Baird in this particular situation. I mean, Sephiroth has control or command over entities that can get pretty much as big as mountains, like these Arbiters of Fate, like remember the boss battle in the end of Final Fantasy Remake. All this stuff, technically, I guess one could say Sephiroth can do, like included but not limited to lifting all this debris up and stuff, like just destructive stuff. It just wouldn't make sense if he couldn't do this stuff. He has command over the Arbiters of Fate, you know. I look at it like this: whatever his base form can do, his black wing form can hit harder or do slightly better, and of course he can do better in his Sephiroth reborn state. Of course he can hit even harder than all those other forms. I mean, let's take it even further. If we want to truly say he can hit harder than the summons, or hit harder than what the summons energy a summon can produce, look what they say about beings like Titan, like this one summon. They say that he can cause an entire continent to rise. And if we assume that Sephiroth is stronger than a summon like this, he can not only crush mountains, but cause whole continents to rise. And like there was this region in Final Fantasy VII, you guys already know about the grasslands. It was because of this Titan that made a massive earthquake back in the myth days. And it's because of this being's raw power, the output he put out was the reason why this grasslands area was even a thing, because he had this continent rise from the sea. Like I already mentioned how they made the continent rise from the sea. They made the land rise from the sea, and that's how they know about the grasslands. Like you guys know how the Final Fantasy world works. Like you see the different regions, like the grasslands, this continent, apparently a Titan made all of this rise. And if we assume that Sephiroth can hit as hard as this being or harder, that would mean Sephiroth's hitting power or strikes would be similar to the amount of energy needed to rise something up like this with his hits, meaning that he can hit with a similar force needed to make a whole continent rise. And like this, I think we all could agree he's definitely stronger than the summons. I mean, he can exist in multiple worlds at the same freaking time, for Pete's sake. So one could say if he was in that situation, couldn't Sephiroth, especially in this mode, have enough raw energy to produce an attack that can make a whole continent like this rise if he wanted to as well, right? I mean, there is implication. I mean, there's like this summon right here. Sephiroth he wanted to test Cloud and them. He had them fight. He had that summon fight the party while he does his own endeavors. So it lets you know that he's the ultimate big bad when he has the crew fight his summons. Not to mention there's summons that literally are stated to be able to cleave anything in two, whether it be the fabric of creation or time between the seconds. And they jokingly compare Cloud's sword to his, you know, Cloud, somebody that Sephiroth always clashed in swords with. So it lets you know that Sephiroth's sword or his just attacks in general can compete with a Cloud who jokingly got his attacks compared to a summon that can cleave to anything, or even the fabric between the seconds or creation. And Sephiroth's hits can clash with this same sword. I'm just saying. Even being similar to strength to Cloud, like Zack, that used the literal same weapon and everything, we've seen him clash swords with. Base form, might I add. No Arbiter of Fate form, no Sephiroth Reborn or nothing. Matter of fact, not just Cloud, but Cloud and Zack he can clash with. And then you got that one statement about Titan saying he has earth-shattering strength. And it's even stated here about Titan's earth-shattering might. And what if we assume that Sephiroth can do like he did to this summon here, like in this particular situation in his base state, without even using the super powered up modes? Wouldn't that imply Sephiroth would have to be able to hit similarly if their durability is just like how hard they can hit? We know Titan's durable, you know? Or same with Ifrit. So that would not only imply having the hits to raise a continent, but shatter the world. But if you think this is a bit of a stretch, you got to remember the materia they use, which is Sephiroth's whole goal. Yeah, the whole goal was to get like this super crazy overpowered materia, this black materia. Sephiroth has different materias. This materia, the super materia, for example, it allows a user to cast an extremely powerful spell. That's a constant reminder, like this ridiculously powerful thing known as Meteor, something that can extremely wound the planet or destroy the planet. Like this was kind of like the goal for the previous saga too. So this kind of adds up with the lore of it being able to do major damage to the surface of a planet or mess up the planet in general. It's even stated here that the black materia shall summon the destroyer of worlds. Meteor shall fall, sun the skies, and shattering the earth, they say. So technically, this would pretty much confirm Sephiroth, if he has the black materia, he would be able to literally planet bust, stating that they have to protect everybody from this world-destroying black materia. There's different cast members that even talk about it, like Yuffie says, oh my goodness, he could be destroying the planet at any minute. So it's not even up for debate. It's literally confirmed with this black materia. He would quite literally have the power to summon a meteor that would shatter the earth, quite literally. Literally confirming that he is a planet buster with this black materia or gear. And the way this world's cosmology works, it seems like they have similar planets to our real life solar system. So yeah, they do have like a multitude of planets in the solar system, just in case those that are curious. But even if you want to be disrespectful and try to say, oh, he can't do what Titan can do, let's be disrespectful right quick. Let's assume Sephiroth can't Earth Shatter without the black material. Let's assume that. Even if we disrespect him, let's just look at it like this. Different planets have different sizes, right? So even if you want to assume he can't Earth Shatter, what about other planetoids? Like planetoids like the moon, for example, which are smaller than the Earth. If you want to be disrespectful and say he can't just Earth Shatter, let's just say he can Moon Tremble or Shatter with his hits. I mean, I personally think he's stronger than all the summons, so I personally think it would just break continuity. If he couldn't shatter like constructs like the moon or smaller planetoids at least, it would just be break continuity. He has to be stronger than the summons. Don't ask, but Final Fantasy loves remaking stuff. So this was the OG and this was the apparent reunion remake. One could say this is more aligned with the remake trilogy that I've been going over in this video. If we take the stuff serious that happened in this, you got to remember there's legit summons that let's all assume that Sephiroth is stronger than, that have enough power to mess up a planetoid structure like the moon, a smaller planetoid structure like the moon. With their blast power, Sephiroth should be able to do similar to what these summons can do or better when it comes to how hard he can hit or his blast power, his own blast power. When he's merged and has control over the Arbiters of Fate in this super mode, he can kind of make his own version of Bahamut, guys. So yeah, he's got to be above that. Like, yeah, he just creates stuff like this out of the blue, like a little avatar of himself. It would be weird if he couldn't do catastrophic damage to the moon. He can literally create his own Bahamut, one of the summons that are ridiculously strong enough to do catastrophic damage to a moon-sized structure or a planetoid in another dimensions version of the moon. What do you think? Do you think he could destroy the planet without the black material? Adding on the fact of all this power he can hit with because he's like literally commanding the arbiters. He's like the perfect monster. On top of all that, he can fight really fast to where he can pretty much zip towards you faster than you, like he did the Buried here, before he could even defend himself. Even while young, you see him just pull out a blade, all these beings and the vehicles. Notice how he's moving past the bullets and missiles like they're nothing, like they're just slow to his speed. All of them, yeah, they're already cut. Like, that's how fast he was. Like, all the stuff that was in flight is cut already. And all of these beings are cut up. That's what you call fighting speed. I mean, he can already compete with Cloud in raw fighting speed, and Cloud can move ridiculously fast. Like, how Cloud can compete with beings that are apparently lightning quick, like Reno. And it doesn't seem like to be an exaggeration, because when you see Reno move, he looks like a lightning streak or blur, and Cloud can compete with this kind of speed. And, you know, Sephiroth can also compete with Cloud's fighting speed. Even when Cloud starts zipping around the area, yeah, like a blur, and, you know, Sephiroth can still react to him. Even when Cloud does blitzes like this, he still reacts to it. So as a bare minimum, he can react to lightning fast stuff. Probably way more, because he was effortlessly reacting to Cloud. And even was fast enough to zip towards Cloud to where he disarmed him of his blade that quickly. Cloud has his moments where he has to literally react to lasers, and Sephiroth has to compete with this speed and fighting speed. This monster right here, for example, didn't have no time to do anything before Sephiroth could just straight up blitz him before he even had time to, like, defend itself. And of course, I can't fail to at least mention it. Even though we haven't seen it happen in this remake saga yet, there's a good chance in this Rebirth trilogy saga that Sephiroth will end up getting, like, this is not a guarantee, but it's a very high possibility he's going to get this same similar move that he has in the previous games. Like, I'm curious to see how they're going to do it. Like, this supernova ability that can destroys the whole solar system. How are they going to do this in the remake? Let's see how they do it. But it's a good chance he might get this technique in the remake. Build a level multiple planets. But yeah, everybody, Sephiroth is crazy strong. But before I get going, I gotta give a quick thanks to the donators real quick. It helps out a lot. Respect Sephiroth though. This guy's scary. I'm glad you are enjoying your time on the channel. Make sure you check out the playlist on the channel to see other How Strong videos. If you like what this channel is offering, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys later.